Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the Yo Video Games podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who've kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, thank you. And if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames. Dude of the week is Floyd M. Thank you, Floyd.
Thank you, Floyd.
And as always, I guess lately as always, we have a sponsor to thank.
Yeah.
And it is Fresh Ball Fall, or it's getting close. It doesn't feel like fall, but it's like what, September 21st is fall?
Officially a fall day, but it's still summer. Let's be real, it's still summer.
Still hot as fuck, sweating my balls off.
So the only sponsor that would make sense for us, of course, was Manscaped. And they have Fresh Ball Fall going, getting your balls ready for the autumn season, because, you got your pumpkins, your gourds, your squash, whatever, your Johnson looks like. And then, of course, your Christmas tree and all its dangly bits.
Yeah, because even if you got a chode, you got to make sure that the balls look fresh so that your chode looks bigger. You got to take care of it.
Oh, we do.
And the perfect thing to take care of it is the Performance Package 4.0, which comes in this sick-ass DOP kit. But of course, the Performance Package 4.0 has the Lawnmower 4.0, which is a favorite of ours, and the sweet-ass Crop Preserver, another favorite of ours.
Yeah, and it saves yourself a nasty long spring cleaning by keeping your junk nice and groomed and trimmed in the fall. So
yeah, say you got to do yard work. Today I was doing a lot of yard work, and I drank more water than I weigh. And thank God I was wearing the Manscaped Boxers 2.0, also another part of the package, because I was sweating like fucking mad. It was disgusting. Honestly, if I didn't have Crop Preserver, it would have smelled like swamp ass everywhere, probably.
Yeah, and thankfully, because you've got your Performance Package, that shit slid right off of you like water on a duck, rather than sitting there and fermenting and collecting, like some mossy pit. So
you don't know that. I might have a mohawk down there. Okay. Gives me a lot of freedom.
That's true. Whatever adventure you want to take in pubic hair is up to you. And to help get you there will be the Lawnmower 4.0.
Yeah, what I like to do is I like to keep everything short except the taint hair, which I braid. Anyway, if you're interested in checking out any of Manscaped's products, please head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's manscaped.com. Our code is YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
Well, I thought about going into the Gregorian Halo chant right there, just going into, oh no, because today we're going to talk about something. I mean, it came out right after we recorded last time, but I still feel like there's important stuff to talk about here.
Project Management 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
I guess the starting point is that the announcement was that couch co-op is canceled for Halo Infinite, and co-op campaign is just pushed back again. Was there anything? Was there anything else canceled?
I want to get the exact statement because I feel that's important.
My thing about this is they have to know that Halo became popular for a couple reasons, but a big reason was the couch gameplay. LAN parties. I can remember in college, or my brother, he went to computer engineering school, so their dorm was everyone had an Xbox that they LAN. The reason he got an Xbox is because they did these big dorm-wide LAN parties where they would have tournaments and stuff. And I remember him getting Halo. I think he got Halo 2 for that. And coming home from at one summer and just being a boss at Halo 2 because he had played so many hours and so many weekend tournaments at school. And actually, I think that's the reason we got the first Xbox that we got. He got it on sale while he was up at school. Yeah, I don't know how you fuck that up. if that makes sense. Like,
well, here's the funny thing. Well, I don't know about funny thing. The reason I want to get the quote was because there's not really a known scapegoat or known reason. So the official words used by 343 Industries when they were doing their big season fall winter roadmap update. Here's the quote. In order to improve and accelerate ongoing live service development and to better address player feedback and quality of life updates, we have reallocated studio resources and are no longer working on local campaign split screen co-op, said 343 Industries. So basically they're saying they need to focus on live service stuff for Halo Infinite, and they have to move anyone who's working. Here's where it gets crazy. Split screen co-op is still in the game via a bug.
Of course. There
is a bug in which you can enable split screen co-op in the campaign mode. And it actually runs and doesn't. And they say it especially runs well on Series X. Some people have speculated that because Halo Infinite is meant to run on Xbox One and One X, One S, Series S, Series X, maybe just they were running into too many issues with the game as it was. The campaign mode couldn't run on Xbox One, which
possible, yeah.
They didn't say that. It could be possible, but I don't think that would be a good enough excuse though, because people would just be like, well, then just fucking cancel it for the Xbox One. Like,
yeah, but not enough people have bought the Series X.
That's where I'm kind of like, well, there's your incentive, first of all. And second of all, the Series S is easy to find and it's $300. And it is like the most convenient fucking system I've ever opened in a box ever.
No,
like,
that's fair.
They even designed the box to literally like be like cradled and formulated in a way where it's like you literally open the box up, go whoop. This is like it's propped up. And it's like you just.
And also, in the interest of being fair to this, I don't know that split screen co-op even really matters in this day and age.
Well, no, maybe
it's more the
maybe,
delay
maybe
to regular co-op. That's
here's where it gets really fucky.
It just they.
I need to find. There's another quote. Unfortunately,
where how I don't understand how they could possibly get out of this.
During a speech at the DICE Summit 2017, 343 Studios General Manager Bonnie Ross said all future Halo games will be split screen.
Ooh.
I'm trying to get the exact quote here. The decision to remove split-screen support from Halo 5 Guardians was one of the most difficult ones we've ever had to make as a studio. Microsoft... That was actually Phil Spencer. I'm getting the wrong quote here. The decision to not have split screen in Halo 5 was incredibly painful for the community as well as for her team. She said that. We've also had a lot of learnings along the way. Ross said when we fell down with multiplayer launch, blah 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 blah. When we fell down with the multiplayer launch of Master Chief Collection, or when we didn't put split screen in with Halo 5, it was incredibly painful for the community and for us. It erodes trust with the community, and as the community is part of our world building, a lot of learnings from that. I would say for any first-person shooter going out, we will always have split screen in going forward. That was the exact quote from General Manager Bonnie Ross of 343 Industries in 2017 at the DICE Summit.
Yeah, well, that was 5 years ago. It was basically a generation ago, so that doesn't count anymore. Awkward turtle. Just, you know what this... I sort of want to ask...
There was a video last year with 343. I forget the employee exactly. He was talking about... It was an interview. It was like an official, like... It was like a company interview, where like they interviewed the developers, but it's like a company made, video, whatever. I think it was Konami. I don't think it was for any outlet. And one of the managers at 343 Industries said, we promise split screen will be there day one for Halo Infinite when the game launches. And he said we're having to configure it a little bit, so on PC it'll come in a patch just a little bit after the release of the game, but we promise split screen co-op campaign will be there day one for Xbox users. And it will absolutely, I can promise, and he reiterates it in the interview, it will absolutely also be there for PC users.
Oh, they dug a hole.
Yeah, so I needed to get all these quotes. I'm sorry I was a little like fragmented there, but the point I was getting at here is that they promised multiple times in video, in quotes, in speeches, they would never do this again. And they did it again. In the name of live service entertainment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's just the way the industry's going. So I sort of feel for them being between a rock and a hard place. Especially if it just wasn't working.
I don't know, all those promises, I feel, because from the one quote we got from them on their roadmap is that they needed to reallocate resources to continue live service, blah, 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 blah. So it doesn't even sound like something that was impossible. And again, it's in the game. People can activate a pretty, from what I understand, an easy to do bug, a glitch, and activate split screen co-op. And you can play the whole campaign once it's going, cutscenes and everything, in co-op.
Is that one of those like glitches that are total bugs but left in on purpose by the devs?
I think what the glitch does, and I could be wrong about this, I'm not 100%. I think the glitch accesses something that the developers were working on. Like, it's not like, oh, is this like a complete fluke or whatever. It's like, no, it unlocks a bit of the game that was in the game that they were working on, but they hadn't finalized, right? They hadn't completely bug tested it, right?
Right.
So it's like they did absolutely were working on and testing out split screen co-op for the campaign. It was absolutely a thing, and there are ways to access the build that they had going at some point. And this is where I think this was probably one of the biggest missteps, because you just kind of flat out fucking lied to people. Now they intended at the time when they said that to have split screen in there, but they've had to basically give up on it, or for whatever, for live services, and
well, knowing how the industry pushes live services from the top down, I'm actually willing to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, they still fucked up, and it's taken too long for this to come through, but you know, you don't really know that it was their decision. If that makes sense. Like, somebody, they could have been told that that's what was happening. You know, and they're not allowed to defend themselves. That's the other thing about the industry that, like, we've talked about before. Developers aren't allowed to defend themselves, because if they do, they may never fucking work again.
100% correct.
So,
because and I'm kind of with you on this, where I'm like, I'm not super angry with 343. This is actually something I think falls a bit on Phil. I think this is a faux pas on his part, where it's like, whatever obviously 343 Industries is a tire fire of management.
right.
You could say, like, well, we can blame the managers on this. Yes, we can. But something's obviously not going right here. But Phil, obviously, and others, more specifically tied to the Halo series, like general managers from Microsoft ends, not 343's end, the liaison, if you will. Someone there made the call and said, okay, we're having trouble making this work. We can't make this work. And someone at Microsoft said, well, fuck it then. We'll have an online co-op, and we'll have Forge, and then we'll push everything else back to next year, and can just cancel split screen, move everything into live service. Someone at Microsoft eventually came down and said, this is what we're going to do. This is the end of it. Like, this is the final call.
Right.
And I don't believe for a second that nobody at 343 said, well, we promise this. like the general manager, Bonnie Ross. I don't believe for a second she didn't bring this up and say, but we said we would always have this going forward. And someone said, well, it's taking too many resources away from your live service stuff, so you need to get rid of it. I don't, and I'm sure someone at Microsoft said it doesn't matter how bad this makes us look, we need to keep the live service going. But I think this is possibly, and it's hard to gauge how much monetary, problems will this cause for the game, right? Like, what is this
None.
going to do? Is it none, right? Like,
None.
I think it's awful. It's always really bad when you can literally like point to a person bold-faced lying, right? Where it's just like, you promised us specifically here and here and here you would have this. Now you don't. You literally said you would never do this again. You did it immediately.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
again.
I don't know. It's one of those like they'd rather owe you than screw you out of it, I guess, where they'll keep their promise next time, maybe. Or they really, really love you, baby, and it's not going to happen again, I swear it.
And I mean, it can ruin developers and companies. I think it ruined Fable, honestly, for a long time. I think the trust erosion that happened with Fable 1 and 2 eventually eroded the trust. So like by the time we got to 3, no one was interested anymore.
Well,
what
was the promise for Fable 1 and 2 that didn't happen?
Okay, well, Fable has the famous, do you remember you will plant a tree, you plant an acorn, and then you come back when you do the time skip, it'll grow into a tree, years later when your character grows up or whatever.
What?
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah. Oh, you missed out on Peter Molyneux promising the fucking moon on Fable.
I don't remember this at all.
Oh yeah, he got infamous because he would always promise features because he's the head of the studio. He promises all this bullshit, and then all the developers and programmers are like, "What the fuck is he talking about? This was never in the design document."
he just makes shit up while he's talking.
He would
on
make
stage.
shit up. Yes. You could also say him trying to make a child conversation simulator. Remember creepy ass Milo? Maybe that was also another thing that fucking killed him. Who knows? But I'm like, there was definitely a large erosion of trust to the point where Lionhead Studios up and died. 3 sold a lot less than 2, and then Fable: The Journey didn't sell shit because nobody really bought. Nobody was really that on board with Connect.
Well, yeah, I forgot about Fable: The Journey.
Yeah, and then there was Project Milo never even made it out of that creepy ass fucking tech demo. Thank God.
Well, wait, what did he promise this time? That the next Fable's going to exist? Is that the big promise that he's not going to follow through on?
So, I think my point is that like there was more stuff too. He promised the moon for this fucking game. Scars being permanent and stuff like that. And
oh yeah, okay, I remember the scars being permanent thing, but I didn't realize that he had promised all this shit.
He promised you could plant trees and watch them grow in real time and shit like that. Like,
what an asshole. Well, I don't think split screen co-op is like that. And the reason
it's
the
not
vast
quite
majority...
that, because it's not like they didn't promise you the moon. It's like it's a mode that's been in there from day 1 with Halo, and then they took it. I guess they didn't have it in Halo 5. I didn't follow Halo much after 4. I beat 4, but yeah. So this is not good. It's not good in any way, shape, or form as far as like consumer trust in Microsoft as a whole. Really, they've not had a good year.
No, they've had a really rough year.
This has not been a great year for them.
I don't know. I don't know that this is like end of the world, or I don't know that it'll really affect things going forward. I do think it sucks, but I'm not sure that.
Yeah, I
as long as co-op is in the game,
there is online co-op. It's been delayed till November 8th,
right?
So it comes out the same day as God of War.
Awesome.
A year.
That'll stop people.
It comes out a full fucking year now after the game's release.
It was supposed to be 4 months, right?
Yeah, and then it was 6, and then it was like 8, and now it's 12.
Nice. Yeah, I've been waiting to play the game entirely for co-op.
and because the game I played a little bit of it last year with Max and Mike was there, and it was fun. It was really good, and I liked it a lot, and I actually was enjoying it. I'm like, you know what? I actually want to save doing a full playthrough of this. I want to save it for the four of us. I want four of us to go in there and do this whole campaign together. This will be a blast.
Right.
Because the gameplay is actually solid. The gameplay is good in Halo Infinite, but holy shit, this development's been rough. But like, we got to go back. Halo Master Chief Collection, rough.
Rough.
That was
Yes.
you know, Halo 5, rough. I can even find, I can still even find quotes talking about how rough. They admitted they fucked up with the multiplayer at launch and the split screen at launch. Not having split screen, and
Right.
so Halo 5 Guardians was rough, and Master Chief was rough. And people are a little split on how they feel about 4 being 343. That was their first game, but it was still on 360. I actually kind of liked 4.
Yeah, I was trying to think. Like, I liked 4. I was actually given this thought where I was like, have 343 just been like awful? But the answer is no. Who did Bungie do Reach, or was that
Yeah,
343?
that was the last one.
Bungie was the last
swan song for Halo was Halo Reach.
shit,
It was
because Reach was good.
it was part of their agreement to buy themselves out from Microsoft. Was like they wanted to buy themselves out, and they had accrued like their own private money for it. And Microsoft was like, okay, well, give me one more Halo, give me one more exclusive Halo. And they're like, Halo Reach, fine. So Halo Reach,
That's kind
and
of
then
poetic.
yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, that's a solid one to go out on. Reach was real damn good. Pretty hard to follow up, but 343 then did 4.
And I think 4 was good. 4 was like a nice, clean, I don't want to call it a change of pace, but like,
It was a continuation of the
well,
series.
do you remember how much better 4 came out kind of late-ish in the 360's life, and it looks significantly graphically like way better than say 3.
Right.
Granted,
Yeah.
there was ODST and then Reach in between there, but like Halo, I remember when Halo 3 came out. I don't know if you remember this. Halo 3 came out, and I remember like it looks a little better than 2.
Right.
like
Yeah.
like graphically, I was like, yeah, it looks better. It's HD now, but I'm like, looks okay. It doesn't look miles better than 2 did, and that's when COD 4 came out at the same year. And COD
Right.
4 at the time looked really, really
good.
good.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, wow, I don't know, man. Halo looks fine, but I mean, like COD 4 actually looks like stand out like graphically. It's funny to think about that. Yeah.
Now, yeah. Now you look back at it, it's sort of muddled shit.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
A lot of the stuff that you could play on a CRT, I've noticed, has not aged well. The other,
That was HD, but you could play on
but
a
you could play
CRT.
on a CRT. Yeah,
Yeah, early 360 stuff. Yeah.
right. Um, I had this CRT that had simulated surround sound. And the main
Oh.
reason people were like, oh, how can you hear everything? This is before everyone wore headphones. The simulated surround sound on this Insignia CRT was so good. It was like so pinpoint accurate that I could hear people across the map coming whatever direct. Like I could literally, if I got out in front of our team, I could hear where people were. It was cheating. It was ridiculous.
Andrew was in the Matrix.
It was fantastic. And people would give me shit because they'd be like, how can you snipe when you're on a CRT? Like a person from far away would be super tiny. They just look like this little fly bouncing across the screen. I'd get headshots. Be like, it's just, I don't know how I did it at the time. Now, if I tried to do it, it'd be like, I miss my giant HD screen. What the fuck? But yeah, no, I remember Halo 3 being kind of, it looked good. It wasn't bad, or at least I don't remember it looking bad, but it
I
didn't
don't
look
remember
that much
looking
better.
bad. Yeah, I just remember kind of looking at it and being like, yeah, this doesn't look.
ODST wasn't a giant leap forward. It was just sort of all right looking. I liked
Right,
ODST a
well,
lot, but
ODST was also kind of how do you say well, it was expansion. It was
it
like
was
DLC.
it was a side story.
Yeah, it was like DLC that got expanded because I think it's still called Halo 3 ODST, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it's not just Halo ODST. Oh yeah,
I
you're
don't
right.
know. I think it is Halo 3 ODST.
You're
But
right. Yeah.
I think I think it at least began life as DLC for Halo 3 and then kind of evolved into something bigger, right?
Right.
Um,
And then you
I think
have Reach, which Reach was a good looking game. There's some good looking shit in
I,
Reach.
I mean, I remember it was definitely of the era though. A lot of like browns and grays because all games were looking like that.
Brown,
Also,
yeah.
Halo Reach is about the fall of Reach, so it was never going to be a pretty looking game. It was definitely probably it always intended to be like the grittiest, most blown up landscapes of Halo, right?
Right.
So because Halo's kind of famous for having like really pretty landscapes,
Yeah,
which
well, because the
Infinite
Halo
brings
rings, yeah.
back. Yeah, and Infinite brings that back, but it's like, yeah, well, Reach to me was like the first time they're like, okay, so you're not on a Halo ring, and it's actually kind of bleak because it's about a war that goes fucking south.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so I don't 343 started off fairly strong. 4 wasn't terrible. I didn't play 5. I didn't get to play 5. And I definitely didn't play the Master Chief Collection because I heard nothing but bad. Like that was just a like giant debacle.
mhm.
Um, and then what was after that?
After Reach is 4.
No, I mean 4, and then 5 happened. Was there anything between 5 and
I
Infinite?
think it was 5 and then Master Chief Collection and then
Oh, I
Infinite.
thought it was 4 Master Chief and then 5.
No, no, no. I'm almost positive
Okay.
it was Halo 5 Master Chief Collection. And to be fair, I think
To be
I want to be
fair,
fair about this. 343 was not responsible for every part of Halo Master Chief Collection. Much of the specific individual games were ported by someone else. There was like a different studio for every single game in the Master Chief Collection, and I think 343 was focused primarily on Halo 2 in Master Chief Collection. I might be wrong about this. This is going off memory.
well, that would
I know
make sense though.
I know Blur Studios redid a bunch of the CG cutscenes for Halo 2 for Master Chief Collection, but it was like, yeah, like someone ported in Halo Anniversary. 343, I think, focused primarily on Halo 2, and then someone else did 3 and someone else did 4. And there were problems there because there was like you had 4 different studios working on 4 different ports of 4 different games for one collection.
Right.
And then they eventually did add ODST, and I think Reach got added to it as well. So yeah, it was a mess. And not I don't think it's all 343's fault, for the mess that became Master Chief Collection. But I mean, they didn't they weren't like it wasn't like, hey, we're the ones doing our job, either. Like, they weren't like they weren't leading by any sort of example.
I have 2 questions. One, 343 was started by Microsoft to take over Halo, right?
Yes, because when Bungie went independent, um yeah, like Microsoft immediately set up a studio called 343. And that actually is a good point because it brings up something else. Some people have, I guess you could call it a defense, but some people have pointed out that for a major AAA studio, 343 Industries doesn't have that many people in comparison to other large scale studios. Like, they have way less people than like Insomniac, for example.
Right.
Um, so this might be a case of like Microsoft hasn't hired a lot of people to work at 343 Industries. And I think that's coupled with another fact, and that is they are forcing the idea of making Halo Infinite a live service title. And they were not a live service studio. Like, they were not created to be one. They were not set up to be one. The people they wooed over to work there were not initially from live service development. So it's kind of a bit of a square peg in a round hole. A bit. I've heard that is also possibly a reason there's so much trouble
My
coming out of
understanding is
this.
also that Microsoft uses a ton of contract work all across their entire company, from gaming all the way to
Mm.
OS. They use a lot of contractors so that they can scale very quickly and also not lay off anybody. So they don't do layoffs; they just cancel thousands of contracts.
Yeah.
So I wonder if a bunch of 343 is contractors too, on
According
top of that.
to According to Microsoft, or at least according to 343, they've grown to 750 employees as of last year.
I mean, that's not tiny.
That's not tiny, although in 2016 it was only 450. So within the last 2 years, they've added like 300 employees.
Who are all live services focused.
Who are probably all live services focused,
right.
yeah. Or within the last 5 years, they've grown like they've had to balloon within the last 3 years for like they've almost doubled. Maybe not quite, but like 450 to 750.
It's
adding
close
300,
to double, yeah.
Adding 300 names to your roster, that's a pretty big jump. And they're in Seattle, so not cheap to live, not cheap to employ either. So they're probably getting probably a lot of British Columbia, developers are probably trying to woo away from up there too. So
that's kind of interesting. The other question I had is 343 989.
989.
They're the successors of 989, which is a bad sign because that means they're going to disappear. 343. No, so I mean the other thing about like Bungie getting bought
by Sony.
Yeah, by Sony. It makes me wonder, like, certain companies kind of have that certain, like, je ne sais quoi, like, that thing, and Bungie seems to have it. They've done 2 big franchises now.
Yeah.
I mean, like, real big franchises, but they also, Destiny is a live services.
Yeah.
So is it just Microsoft trying to chase that magic that they had when they owned Bungie? Where they're just like, 343, now do live services like the Bungie guys do. Like, what? I kind of wonder...
For specifically for why does Halo embracing live service so in particular is because they're chasing Bungie? Actually, from what I understand, take it or leave it. Take it or leave it, people. Take it or leave it. I'm not going to say anything more on this. To my knowledge, to my understanding, that's better. To my understanding, Halo 5's microtransactions were really good. Really, really good. For as much of a fumbled out the gate. For as much of a fumble out the gate, my understanding is that Halo 5's microtransactions were very, very good. Despite the game having this whatever, like this air about it, or like, oh, it stumbled out the gate, whatever viewpoint. So it's not even so much about doing what Destiny's doing or doing what Bungie's doing. It's more just like, well,
chasing that high of profit.
My understanding is like, well, we sold a lot of extra doodads, so we're going into the business of selling you doodads.
I want to sell them doodads.
And I don't know that maybe, in honest to God, this may just be the biggest problem with 343 in general, is that like what Microsoft wants Halo to be is not what the senior staffing at 343 signed up for.
Right.
Like, we signed up to make Halo games, like full, complete, standalone Halo games.
Well, I guess you'll know if there's an exodus, I guess.
And then we would work on the next one. I mean, who knows? Yeah, I mean, maybe there already has been. And I think this all kind of begs a question. This sounds really dickish, but is it maybe time to switch studios for Halo?
Or like, do what Activision did and have multiple studios. Like, if you're going to make Halo the big dick of your, company, basically, and you want it to be a COD killer, then why are you not putting the resources into it that Activision was putting? Like, why don't you have teams that switch off games?
Yeah.
Give a friggin' breather. Because what if 343 is just the Treyarch of Microsoft, and they
because like the way Microsoft up to this point was kind of going was like, Coalition makes Gears, after they bought it from Epic, and 343 makes Halo, and that's what they do. And then Playground makes Forza Horizon, and Turn 10 makes Forza Motorsport.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what they do. They don't like, but like Forza was good because they actually flip, because like Horizon's the open world thing, and Motorsport is like the hard sim racing thing. So they're kind of different games, even though they have the name Forza at the beginning. Um, and obviously different companies made like Halo Wars, for example, the RTS games. But
Right.
maybe the solution is not to just like, here's the Halo studio, here's the Gear studio, here's the Forza studio. Maybe the solution, like you said, is to rotate between them. Like what where Activision was doing for Call of Duty, but Activision got so far up its own ass with that every studio became involved in it.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it used to be like, here's we had two studios, then it became three studios, and then it became 10 eventually. Um,
Right. So the three main were Infinity Ward, Raven, and Treyarch.
well, first it was just Treyarch Infinity Ward. They would bounce off each other.
Right. Every other.
Yeah, and then they created Sledgehammer to be the third pillar studio, and then Raven became Warzone. Raven became the BR studio. Um,
I thought Sledgehammer was the company that got started by Infinity Ward guys when they left Infinity Ward.
no, that's no, you're thinking of Respawn.
Respawn. That's right. Yeah. Wow. So they had that many studios all just making CODs in
At 10.
rotation.
And then Beanox and Toys for Bob and Vicarious Visions, kind of Neversoft.
That's
Everyone
gross.
got folded into the salt mines of COD.
That's gross. That sucks. Imagine your dream is to make like all these wonderful worlds, and instead, it's just like, no, you're gonna make brown soup. I'm gonna be a chef, and I'm gonna make all these beautiful salads and these fucking beautiful meals. And there's gonna be so many things. No, you're making soup.
That's how I really felt because the last studio that wasn't making COD was Toys for Bob, and they did Crash 4. And I'm like, yeah, these guys like, they seem like they really loved this, being able to make a brand new mainline Crash game. And I was like, into the COD mines you go.
Yeah, it's that time of the year we all need you to work extra hard and make us COD. God. I wonder if Microsoft's gonna continue that.
Yeah, and the thing was, like, there was, and you do, if you do follow it, there is talent exodus too, where forget Eric, forget his name, Eric, I forget his last name. He was at Naughty Dog, and it was when Naughty Dog hard pivoted to Uncharted and Last of Us only, and the guy's like, I'm leaving. Because I came to Naughty Dog because I wanted to make Jack and Crash like games, and then he ended up working at Retro for a little while so he could make Donkey Kong Country.
Right, yeah.
Because
I wonder what that's like when you get shoehorned into one type of game as a company.
yeah, and I think that can be a little dangerous.
Well, specialization is kind of like the it thing, but I'm wondering if we're having like I mean everything's a pendulum, right? You go from every company
Mhm.
has like 6 or 7 different types of games that they make and stuff. I mean, Rare did a lot of like sort of off the wall franchises, if you'd say.
Yeah,
Although they did a lot of platformers specifically, but they were kind of all over the place.
yeah. Granted, though, it was quicker and required less manpower to make games back when they were at their peak. That's true, yes, but I
Right.
I do want to put a little ray of hope into this discussion here. That and it goes back to 343, where I'm like, should Call of Duty maybe go to a different studio? And I say I don't think it could hurt to maybe just give it to someone else, because I think what's really, again, and especially I see this in the West a lot too. I think what's killing a lot of stuff here is just the sort of both passion and management. Management is shitty
Right.
across the board. And again, the reason I personally believe we do have a crisis of project management is that too many managers and too many producers have never actually worked on a fucking video game before.
Right. Yeah, they're purely
Or if they've
administrators.
only, like, oh, I've been a producer in games forever. I'm like, all you've ever done is produce video games, which means all you've done is basically, like, hammer people to meet deadlines and green light shit. So it's like, I mean, have you
Eh,
have you worked in development? Have you worked in creative or technical to make this thing a reality? I feel like the companies and the people who seem to be on the ball with their project management always seem, it's like, well, yeah, this guy, he was a programmer and then he worked his way up. He was a tester and then he became a designer and then he became a this. And I'm like, yeah, because they know what they know what it's like to be in the
Right.
salt mine.
Right.
If you're
Leadership
like,
that's done it is going to be a lot more effective than
yeah, it's
leadership
like
who
if
just.
you went to college, you went to like and you got a business or master's degree in project management for general project management, and you became a video game project manager. I'm like, you don't know what it's actually like to concept, design, construct, program, implement.
That's
And I'm
not.
like,
So the thing is that's not entirely fair because if you say went to school for project management, which I don't even know if you can do that, but I guess you could. Um, but like if you're a good project manager, it's not necessarily that you know every detail of how things work. It's that you one cultivate a team that you can
yeah,
trust to tell you how things work, and then also trusting that they're telling you how things actually work.
yeah,
Like a project manager is basically a problem solver for the team, right? They figure
right,
out who needs what and where and when, and then the team has to deliver. Well, if you have a project manager that can't be trusted or can't trust his team, you're fucked anyway. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter how good you
yeah.
are at creating games as a project manager if you can't allocate resources, if that makes sense. So I don't want to paint a picture of like, they're just shitty producers. There could be a lot of problems that are dysfunctional.
I mean, I hear it all the time from developers, though. When I ask, them, like,
Right,
oh my
yeah,
god,
but
like,
the developer, they only have one way to scream.
yeah.
It's not like they can turn around and be like, yeah, it's QA's fault. Like, fucking complaints go up. You can't. If they look up and they're like, yes, the producer above me, it's his fucking fault. But the producer above him is probably like, it's my manager
I
above me.
mean, to be fair, I have heard, and I've heard this even from developers too, where sometimes like, you know what, like, hey, what happened to this project? It wasn't coming together.
Yeah, it
like,
was falling
like,
apart.
like some people are like, we prototyped it, we built this thing, and it just wasn't fun. Like that's always like the most. It's like the most heartfelt, but like, man, when you have ever heard that from someone who did work on something, just be like, we made this, we built it, and it just wasn't fun to play.
Oh,
Like,
dude, that's always the worst is like when you make something and you finish it. Or like, I mean, I
you
don't
get
know
it
if
to like
they've,
a really good playable
yeah.
state.
And then you're just like, sucks. It just sucks. And there's no saving it. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my God. It's even worse if you spend like, if it's only you, right?
Hmm.
You haven't even involved the rest of the team yet or the rest of the people yet. It sucks pretty hard, right? Say, well, in my
Yeah.
case, like you write something and you're like, oh yeah, and you finish the whole thing and you get ready to, make the actual short film or movie or whatever the fuck, and it just sucks. And you're just kind of like, bah, that sucks. That
Yeah.
does suck. But imagine, and I've done this, and you go through the whole process. You spend months. You put the money down, especially when you're doing
Mm.
shoestring shit like I have. So it's my money. It's like you make the whole thing, and then at the end of the process, like you're like, I could put it in. It sucks. It's awful. It's going in a closet. I'm never looking at it
I
again.
almost wish to refer to those documentaries of The Hobbit,
Oh
where
yeah.
Peter Jackson's mid production. He just knows this thing is fucking like this thing is out of his control. And it's like it is a behemoth, and he's just sitting on set alone, just like this is fucked. Just I know it's
I
funny.
I won't say who the client is or was rather. But I remember this one time uh when I was working at a marketing production company. Um we had pitched this great idea. They seemed like they really like, oh yeah, it's going great. And then like 2 weeks before we filmed, they started just changing things. Like they just wanted to like shoehorn all these ideas because like, oh, the brother of the owner saw this commercial and it brought him to tears, so we wanted some of that. But he can't be too sad, so we got to have some humor in it too. And oh man, I know this is about Well, I can't say that because that'll give it away. But I know this is supposed to be a serious issue and blah 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 blah. But we don't. We want to bury the lead. We don't want people to think it's purely about this. Like, and it just became this fucking monster. So it turned from this thing we were all sort of excited about, and then just slogging through shooting all of this shit we knew was going to be bad. Like, and then slogging through all the edit and having to sit through listening to notes from these guys who I mean, not only did they roll this thing up into a carpet and beat it to death, they continued to throw it into a trash compactor and then fucking drop it out of a plane. It just by the time it came out, we were so exhausted by how bad it was that we never put it in our portfolio. We never used it. And I think they ended up going to a different studio to have it recut, to have it air on TV or something like that. But it was just, months of just being miserable. And I can't imagine it's any better doing it for games, because games even happen at a slower progress than filmmaking, where it's just
and
you see that shit by inches.
Yeah, and there was a scoop that recently, there was a scoop that came out recently by Did You Know Gaming, to credit them. They got to talk to a former Retro employee who talked about the long rumor, and I'd known about it, and he went into detail about there was in the GameCube days after Metroid Prime 1, they were working on a concept for a chic game, quote unquote. You were going to play as a actual last male Sheikah, and it was going to be like a stealth, like a stealth action adventure game set in the Zelda universe.
Because you're basically a ninja, right?
Yeah, set in the downfall timeline, where the failed Link timeline after Ocarina. And he was candid where he's like, we had a prototype, I had, however long they worked on it, and when it was canceled internally by, Nintendo put the kibosh on it, they weren't even upset. They were like, is this coming together? No, this is not coming together. They said, he said, they did that, and they did a strategy. He also said they even prototyped a strategy game as well, set in the Zelda universe. He's like, that did not get very far at all. That barely got off the ground at all. He's like, we made one map, and we're just like, this isn't fun.
I wonder
very quickly that this is not fun.
Well, they don't hire a full team to prototype, do they?
No, usually not. Usually you get a very small core team of just, you build a tiny little thing. What is this thing? And if you cancel, I mean, they've done that. There was Fable Legends where they spent $75 million on the project. It was actually done and dusted, and it was weeks from coming out, and Microsoft canceled the whole fucking thing.
Right, yeah, because somebody probably finally looked at it and was like, this sucks nuts. This is awful.
So my recollection, I literally was waiting in line to play the game. And as I was playing the game in Microsoft's booth, I was looking over and I saw 2 empty Alien Isolation kiosks opened up. And then I'm sitting there oh shit, it's open. I'm in line. I'm waiting here already. And this guy from Lionhead, or not Lionhead, or whoever was making fucking Fable Legends, comes up and is like, all right, guys, so did you get a chance to watch the video? I'm like, oh no, actually, I didn't see the video ahead of time because the line wasn't super long. It was the last day. He says, okay, so this is so if you this game is like a 3D MOBA. If you're familiar with League of Legends, you'll be great. So this is and I said it's a MOBA. And I said, oh wait, hold that thought. And I literally put my finger on my hold that thought, and I got out of line.
What a douche!
All that.
What a dick! I can't even believe you'd do that to that.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna you know what? Hold that thought, buddy. Don't even tell me anymore about your game. Nope. You just see, it's a MOBA. Oh, excuse me, I'm out.
That reminds me of the time when we were standing in line waiting to play that Kingdom Hearts game, and that guy just randomly walks by and goes, "Fucking weeaboos."
Fucking weeaboos.
I don't know who that guy was, but a hero, truly. Actually, weren't we stuck behind a guy from the LA Times who was trying to learn how to play?
We were. There was something like that, yes.
And no one had he'd never played it before, and so it's just a dev sitting there trying to explain to him the concept of using a controller.
Controller, yes. And I actually had to leave that line because I was just like, well, let's just go play, just so we played it. And then I had the ukulele appointment right after, and just left.
Right.
My God,
I loved ukulele though.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best, but I enjoyed it for what it was. For a game made by like 15 people, yes.
Right. Yeah.
Which expectations which people don't get anymore. But I want to go back to there is a little bit of a ray of hope, if you will. And bizarrely enough, I would say like I actually am okay with two companies and how they've kind of handled this problem. Not entirely. I'm not 100% satisfied, but I like how Sega, all fucking people, this company of fucking like goof ups. I'm happy where they're like, "Oh, you want to make a Panzer Dragoon game? Fuck it. You want to fund it? Go for it. I don't care. Cool. You want to make House of the Dead
Do
remake?
whatever
Go
you
for
want.
it. Do whatever you want. Whatever. You pay for it. It's fine. Streets of Rage 4? Sure, do it. I don't care. Shenmue 3, you can have the license, but I'm not putting a fucking dime into it.
You do whatever fuck you want, guy.
So
Like a
thank
drunk
you,
uncle.
thank God, like there's someone at Sega who's very much when someone comes up and is like, I want to do this old ass thing, and Sega's like, are you gonna pay for it? Yeah. Are you gonna make it and pay for it? Yeah. All right.
Just give us a slice on the back end.
It's like, yeah, pretty much. I'm pretty sure they obviously they get some obviously kickback
Drug
from it,
dealer
but it's
Sega.
like, well, I mean, it's not like, and it's like, oh well, like that could really hurt your brand. I'm like Sega ever gives a fuck about their brand being hurt, but
Yeah.
they're kings of ruining their image. But like Nintendo also kind of does this. I'm going to, gosh, I wish I had this saved. Let me see if I can copy this image over to you directly right here so you can see it to go along with me. Someone did a breakdown because people are always like kind of people to this day still think that Nintendo's like this nebulous, right? Where it's just like there's this the Nintendo building and they make all
Right.
these games out of it, and it's like, no, let me break it down for you here. And in this he went over they have four technically external teams, which is they have these are like people at Nintendo who are just those quote unquote liaisons I mentioned before, right? Where
Right.
they go out and they work with other game developers who they think would be good fits for making thing, right? Or maybe even they're like, I have this idea, no one at Nintendo's going to do it, you do it. So EPD1, they go out and they went to Way Forward, got Advance Wars remake made, and then it'll never come out because of the
Yep.
actual because the real world war. They did stuff with Brain Age developers and other people who did like Dr. Mario mobile developer stuff. EPD2, they handle stuff like Mario Rabbids. They did the Mario and Luigi games with Alpha Dream before they basically told Alpha Dream they could go pound sand.
Right.
Because when the sales for those games dried up, there wasn't nobody from EPD2 at Nintendo was like, oh, we're going out of business, we're going bankrupt. Could we become one of your first party studios? Nope.
Nope.
Um,
This is there's a lot of really good games in these external teams, with the why doesn't Sony do this?
That is actually a very good question. Because I think, jumping ahead, that is kind of my point here, where like Nintendo's kind of realized sometimes, like, look, we made a lot of franchises in the '80s, early '90s. Obviously, we can't fucking do it at that kind of pace anymore, right? So like Retro did Donkey Kong Country and then Metroid Prime, and now they have to do Metroid Prime again because Bandai fucked up.
Yeah.
Next they bought Next Level Games, ND Cube. They work with them to do Mario parties. The list goes on and on. But it's like, hey, Intelligent Systems. They're not owned by Nintendo, but they will do Paper Mario's and Fire Emblems. And then even Intelligent System then outsources Fire Emblem to fucking Koei Tecmo now.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And they have like little companies like Grezzo. They do a bunch of the remakes and shit. You go for the Mercury Steam. They don't own Mercury Steam, although that doesn't sound like that. They probably don't want to own them, but like they do 2D Metroids, and they've had Namco make a bunch of shit for them: Pokemon Snap, Pokken, Smash Brothers, and then their failed attempt at Metroid Prime 4. Good Feel, they did all the Yoshi crafted, Yoshi's Woolly Butthole and Epic Yarn shit, right? So,
Right.
I,
Sega does F-Zero, and they need to do it again.
Yeah, Sega did do F-Zero, GX, and AX, and they do need to do it again. Although That is a good point. So the guy, Amusement Vision, which made F-Zero, which turned into the Yakuza team, they had all their senior staff leave, and they got poached to build a new studio in Japan by China, NetEase or Netmarble or one of the companies, one of the big Chinese entertainment. They built a new studio, right? And they poached all this Sega Yakuza talent. And he actually came out candidly. Nagoshi-san was his name. Nagoshi was like, "Why did you leave Sega?" And he's like, "Because they wanted to move me into management position, and I didn't want to deal with any of that business shit. I just wanted to make games."
Nice.
He was this super candid response. Like, they wanted to put me in top management position. And I didn't want to deal with any of that because I just wanted to make video games.
I didn't want none of that. I didn't want none of that responsibility and money shit.
Well, it's like I don't want to. He's like, I don't want to work on the business end of things because that happens so much, and at least in Japan, where like if you're like if you're a director or like lead design, you get moved up, and then you get moved out of game development to the point where people, a lot of people at Capcom are like, they got unhappy, or they just whatever, they took the promotion to upper management, and now they don't make games anymore. They just do business shit.
And clearly, they're not good at it.
well, it's it's a hit or miss.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases here where like they're just not good at it. Put them back to making games and let them make games because they were great at that.
Because I honestly kind of respect fucking Nagoshi for just candidly being like, well, I don't want to be my top management, and this company's offering me a bunch of money to keep doing what I want to do, more money to do what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely, that's great.
Hi, Sega.
I mean, I know that culturally that's a big deal in Japan. You know, like you stay with the company till you die type thing is normal in Japan. But like I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. Yeah, hell yeah.
Life's too short. But yeah, my ray of hope though is looking at this whole thing is that, do you think it's time for Halo to be? Do you think maybe someone else should be given the keys to the Halo kingdom,
or at least give 343 a break to go do something else? There is something to be said for creatively refreshing something. Letting a team go do something else so that they can come back to Halo with, just a better perspective or new ideas.
There was someone who was a developer I saw made a comment online recently where they were talking about the rumored Twilight Princess HD or whatever, and he says, like, as a dev, I feel you can overcook a project. Like you work so long on a project that you actually just sort of like forget what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
And he says, like, it's basically like it's like you burn it, like you overcook it. And he's like, honestly, Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword felt like they were overcooked. Like they worked on those games for so long that I could tell that there was just like they'd been at this forever, just trying forever and ever and ever to make this make this come out correctly and be good or whatever. And it's like you work so hard to make sure that it's paced correctly and fun to play that it becomes unfun because you over design it or you over stress so much of it. And I think he was talking about like he was fearful of Breath of the Wild 2 because it's the longest development Zelda game's ever been in. He's like, I'm worried that they're just going to be overcooked on this project.
Well, it's sort of like, how, have you ever heard that screenwriting book, Save the Cat?
I have heard about Save the Cat.
Save the Cat came out, and it became kind of the Bible for all screenwriters to follow these plot point ideas, and everything became really formulaic. But more than with screenwriters, this book became extremely popular with creative executives because it let them sort of, I don't know, be lazy in the way they evaluated whether a movie was good. You didn't have to know what made a good movie good because you could be like, well, it doesn't have the scene where this happens, and that's really important to movies, according to...
I feel like Roland Emmerich is like the king of having some stupid like that. Like oh, Boomer, like, does the fucking dog make it? Does this character actor make it through?
So it used to be every studio sort of had their formula, and there's always, you always have like a certain 6 elements that are in every single movie or every single story, really. But like it used to be sort of, you went and saw a director because you really loved their style, or a screenwriter because you really loved their style, and they were going to have those main plot points, but like they usually did their flavor of movie a little bit different, you know.
Mm.
Um, and now what do we talk about with comic book movies, or with even Pixar movies, or every movie, you know what's coming. If you've seen one, you've seen all of them because you know the exact plot points. It's all overcooked. It's all, it's all plain ass hamburgers.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that games are kind of getting towards now,
Mm.
where it's like 343 makes Halo, and you know what's coming in Halo. Master Chief's gonna kick the shit out of some aliens, and you know he's gonna dual wield, and he's gonna fucking, and there's no fresh take
Yeah.
on it. And I wonder if that's just the way we're going, because they have to be more productive, so they just need that kind of, they just need a assembly line. Or if there's a way to get back to that.
I think I
No,
don't know. Like
no rules.
even though it started on the 360, I think the idea that like we are going to create a game studio that will make Halo. Their whole core design. I think the idea that we created this entire development studio to make one fucking game
Right.
franchise.
That's oof.
I almost feel like that's kind of like setting yourself up for failure. It maybe not. Maybe if you just have like a constant like rotating door, like people come in, they work on it, and then they leave and whatever, and then whenever they want to work on Halo, they can come back. And some people might, like Mr. Forza guy. Oh hell yeah, I love Forza. I love cars.
Well,
um,
I think that guy's just kind of happy because, especially at the time, like, how many devs did we know that had consistent work always?
yeah, and
Like, that was the one guy we had heard of.
like yeah, and working on Madden and Call of Duty and Halo
It
are kind
offers
of
a
like
stability that not a lot others
yeah,
do.
it
Yeah.
definitely probably is the most stable type of work you could possibly ever imagine in the game industry at this point. But I almost kind of also feel that like maybe we should let 343 kind of like go do something else for a little bit. And that doesn't mean like, oh, just like don't bother working with them. I mean, like, no, like maybe the company there just needs a refresh,
Yeah, let him
right?
go do so. Look, the other thing that, and we've talked about this before, is just maybe Halo needs to end. You
And
know,
that's the other thing too, because like when Metal Gear Solid abruptly pretty much ended because of Konami being Konami, I'm actually okay with that. It kind of like was like, oh, I've asked this before. I'm like, do you guys miss Metal Gear? And something like, yeah, I miss Metal. I'm like, I actually kind of am okay with Metal Gear Solid just ending. Like, just
right?
nope, that was it. That was fine.
You got
We
5 games. You got a full
we made
story.
yeah, we got Metal Gears, we got Metal Gear 1 through 5, and then we have Rising, which is the best one, and we could call it a day. Like we have nothing, there's doesn't have to be more. I mean, I would like a Rising too, sure, but like I'm actually okay with the story of Metal Gear Solid just and the
Being done.
franchise
It's
being
okay to be
done. I'm
done.
I'm okay with the franchise just being done completely.
I mean, I
I
honestly, COD should have been done 6 games ago. How many games are we in now? There's fucking 20.
well, there's been one game a year since 2006 or 5.
Yeah, so we're 15, 17 games. Just it's good. It's done. Time to make a new IP. And
Right?
I think honestly that might just be what needs to happen, is they need to let 343 pitch something and go do it. Or at least make an off, okay, it's still Halo, but like do an ODST or do something like that. Switch it up, give them a chance to have fresh ideas. Any final thought on that?
You know, again, I want to. I think that for me, the biggest thing to stress is no developer's lazy. No developer, especially when you're talking something of Halo's caliber, no developer sets out to make a bad game. No one
Right,
tries to
yeah.
make a game that is going to be bad, and no one goes out. And none of these developers are lazy. Nobody at 343 is lazy at all. No one is. No one making those games are lazy. That's the
Right.
shittiest, stupidest take I think you can give. But I do think that I think this project has been mishandled and mismanaged from the beginning, from all the delays after delays and all the modes that didn't make it in are still not in, still getting delayed. I think I personally think that you should have just focused on finishing, hindsight's 2020, but I think what Microsoft should have done is said, we're not going to fucking do anything live service related until we've put every single mode in Halo Infinite that's standard, right? That's split screen co-op, online co-op, forge mode, you know, all of that has to be done. Then we'll talk live service, then we'll talk roadmaps, then we'll talk season passes. Now, there's going to be an economist or someone who would tell me that's actually really stupid because that is because you need constant updates and refreshes and content being added. You need to have a good drip feed of content because that is how Fortnite has made its success. That is how all of these gacha games make their success, by having constant drip feed of update. And my only counter argument to that, say, well, how well has it been going for them otherwise? Because it's been constant delay after constant delay for anything at all.
It would also just be great if they would release a finished game for once. It sure seems like most AAA places aren't releasing finished games. They release mostly finished games.
Well, they learned that we can have patches, we can have DLC, we can sell it to you later, we could patch it later, and then it became live services, just like the fucking cancerous tumor that grew out of DLC and patches and microtransactions into. We can keep this fucking gravy train rolling forever, and we can release this thing as early as we want, because that's even better, because that means we can have bigger roadmaps, longer roadmaps. You'll be playing this game and giving us extra money forever. So yeah, like, part of me is just like, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I'm like, I'd rather just have a finished game. And I honestly think the focus of Halo Infinite should have just been finish the modes, fuck anything else as far as like multiplayer additions or live service shit. Just finish everything, make everything fucking there and working. Now we'll start adding, season pass multiplayer bullshit.
Right.
But I think everything should have been finished first. Even if it wasn't. Would I have delayed Halo Infinite another fucking year? Yeah, I think I would have.
Well, I guess I also just wouldn't have announced it for a year extra, Would have come time to be like, oh, it's nowhere near finished. We're not going to announce it until next year. But that's just me. If you guys want to listen to the rest of the episode, obviously you got to pay us $5 and download it directly from us. And, the episode actually never ends.
Oh, God.
You just keep.
I mean, people do that where like they release like chunked versions.
They do
podcasts, and then
I mean, actually, we're no better. We do, for patrons, we do extra. we do side quests now. Wait, we become everything we hate.
We become everything. Oh my God, we are the enemy. We are the live service now.
I am the live services.
Fuck.
On that note, we've got patrons to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Floyd M. Thank you, Floyd. And our producers for this episode are Screwnami, Kuroi35, HyperViper89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes. And we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.